Hey everyone, welcome back with Being on Mac, where today we're going to continue our playthrough of ECW House Party Mixtape, a ROM hack made by GM Spectre, which converts the original WWF WrestleMania 2000, originally made by Aki Corporation for the Nintendo 64, into an ECW All-Stars mod of sorts, replacing it with, the best of ECW. And, getting into it, one thing that I do want to say is that we're going to have a pay-per-view at the end of this month, since we're doing it at the end of January. However, that's going to be, if you followed me for a while, you know that just whenever it comes to these WrestleMania playthroughs or whatever, like, I usually just save the Rumble as a separate event. So that's what it's going to be for this. I don't know what the pay-per-view is going to be, but, it's going to be a big battle royal, and RVD to get to the, even though I am the ECW champion at this moment in time, if I want to keep my belt, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to win this battle royal, which is going to be next episode, next week and stuff. And so that way, I don't have my freaking title stripped from me and stuff like that. But that said, we're worrying about stuff from, next week and whatnot. But this week we still got to make sure, I'm sure I'm going to have a ECW title defense as well. I'm going to have to get through too. And I don't know when he's going to show up, but we should have a match with the Maniac as well. Because he came out, geez, what was it, like freaking September or something like that? October, maybe something like that, and we still have not fought him yet. So I don't know if the game just like defaults to like a specific month when you like have to fight them or something, but it's really weird. I mean, I think there was even one time where I did it and the character I was supposed to fight just never showed up. I never had a match with them, but I don't know, maybe that's going to be the case here as well. But speaking of super crazy, I was actually trying to, I don't have the network anymore, unfortunately, and I've been trying to watch a few clips here and there of ECW stuff and content when I can. I would think about getting the WWE network again, but like I can barely, my schedule's pretty busy at this point. So, I mean, I'd just be kind of wasting my money. I wouldn't be able to have time to watch that stuff, unfortunately. And I was really hoping, even though it is owned by WWE, that, there would be, because I can find clips of, like, segments on ECW and stuff like that on YouTube. I've not been able to find that legendary three-way dance between Nunzio, or Little Guido, I always get the name wrong, Little Guido, Super Crazy, and Tajiri that is so famous and stuff like that. But I think there was, like, maybe a highlight clip or something like that. But, I wanted to watch the whole match. As if, like, that 3-minute clip was the entire match, but I doubt that. But I have gotten around to watching a few clips and stuff like that, educating myself about a little bit of the ECW, the Land of Extreme, and all that other good, juicy stuff that's associated with the brand, some of its more hardcore moments and stuff. And one of them I actually watched was one recommended to me by the makers of this mod, GM Spectre, in which it's Jim Cornette comes to ECW. So I think every time that they went to the ECW arena, they had to have a surprise, is how Jim Cornette described it. And, I watched him, or not watched, but I listened to him on like his YouTube channel describe the entire event, how it got set up, what they did when they were there, some funny tidbits and stuff about the segment. Way, like years before I ever even watched this segment and stuff like that. So, apparently, before the events, to get them enticed into coming to ECW and all that good stuff, Paul Heyman took him out, Jim Cornette out to steak dinner. Jim Cornette got to ride into a limousine and all this other stuff that's not typically associated with ECW, but I guess that was something that Paul Heyman did for big clients. He tried to, wine and dine them and all that sort of stuff, and getting them to, come out and do something for ECW and jazz them up and all that other stuff. And he did pay Jim Cornette, but I guess the biggest thing that Cornette wanted at the time was that Paul Heyman kept accusing Dennis Coralluzzo of stealing his talent and stuff like that, which is interesting because that's what the WWF kind of did a lot. But I don't know, it's tough to say at certain times with that stuff, like, because they had a working relationship. It was almost like ECW was pretty much a developmental territory in a lot of ways for the WWF. But yeah, so apparently the one promise that Paul Heyman said he wanted to do, which was stop accusing Dennis Coralluzzo of stealing his talent. He went back on his word anyway, but he tricked Jim Cornette into getting on the show and stuff like that, which is really funny to me. But Paul Heyman, he's a shyster. Everybody knows that, but he's, I guess, one of the most lovable ones. Him and Vince, when you really think about it, I think a lot of people kind of, there's always like the bad promoters and the people that screw them over and all this other stuff, and I think the top guys on that list would have to be Vince McMahon and Paul Heyman at the high level of it. But it's interesting how a lot of people love to kind of give them a lot of free passes in certain situations, just because I guess they're able to inspire their workers regardless of their shady tactics and all that other stuff. Plus Vince being in the WWE, for the longest time, like the last 25 years, it was really the only thing in town. There were some alternatives like TNA, we got AEW and stuff nowadays, obviously, and Ring of Honor and stuff, but that's kind of niche stuff a lot of times when you think about it, compared to like the WWE and how it was with WCW at the time and how big that was and stuff. But anyway, to continue on with the actual segment, it's just a pretty funny segment, pretty great one too. It was a pretty big deal, I imagine, at the time, having Jerry Lawler come in and help RVD and Sabu defeat the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer and stuff like that. And then on top of that, you also had Jim Cornette, who also seemed to be not a very ECW kind of guy. And I don't know, one of my favorite lines I've said like a million times is when Taz was in like WWE or something like that, and Jerry Lawler just said they had socks taller than Taz. I guess Jerry Lawler really didn't like ECW. Extremely crappy wrestling is what he always used to call it and stuff. But Jerry Lawler's also kind of a character as well. Oh, hey, here's that match I was talking about. We got it for the Win Championship, so we just got to take out the Tasmaniac and secure another big win for the pay-per-view here, folks. What an odd placement, though, of this match. Like I said, I think it was like September or October or something when he like first showed up and just kind of stared at me. So I don't know, he must have like went into hibernation or something like that. I don't know. But some other good funny stories that came from that segment was Jim Cornette it was Jerry Lawler who smacked Tommy Dreamer at one point in the nuts with a kendo stick, and I guess it's funny, but it's not. So he apparently ruptured one of Tommy Dreamer's testicles, and I guess it leaked and was bleeding. He had to get it drained and all this other stuff. So that's the terrible part. But the funny part is when Jim Cornette went to smack him with his racket and stuff like that. Tommy Dreamer, I guess, looked up at Jim Cornette or something and said something along the lines of, "I think I'm dying." And that's not the only segment I've seen in which Tommy Dreamer got injured either. That's another segment I've seen was it was actually on the Reddit of ECW, which is, they always post some good clips and stuff like that on there. ECW, promos and memorabilia and all that sort of stuff. There's even a really cool guy that posts all these like awesome T-shirts based off the ECW stars that he has and stuff too. And I watched the whole segment. It was that match with Bill Alfonso, which you can see is actually in the top right of my screen, as well as his match with Beulah McGillicuddy. So it was essentially a tag team match in which it was RVD and Bill Alfonso, and they were taking on the mixed tag of Tommy Dreamer and his wife, Beulah McGillicuddy. Not sure if they were married at that time though, but it is kind of nice. I think they're still together today, and I don't know, I'm just a softy for that stuff, in the wrestling business with all the cheating and all the, freaking affairs and stuff like that and debauchery and stuff, to see that there's, a real couple out there and still love each other and all that other good stuff. But there was like a mixed tag match. RVD actually beat up Tommy Dreamer with the help of Sabu and stuff too, and in that match, Tommy Dreamer actually had the upper hand at first and put RVD essentially balls first onto the guardrail, and then jumped from the top rope with the chair, smacked him in the head. But when he landed, Tommy Dreamer actually broke his foot, I guess, and even went on and wrestled one more match at least at the pay-per-view or something like that before he could take time off. And I don't know, really shows how tough a guy Tommy Dreamer was. But they had, after that, RVD and Sabu teamed up and kicked the crap out of Tommy Dreamer, put him on commission. So essentially, I don't know, I don't really understand from the kayfabe point of view, but RVD just kind of said, all right, well, we're done here, so just go kick, you know, Beulah McGillicuddy's ass, Alfonso, and, you know, I'm just going to go back to the hotel because it's not worth my time. And then it was essentially like a one-on-one match because Tommy Dreamer was incapacitated on the outside, and, yeah, Beulah McGillicuddy essentially just kicked his ass for like 5 minutes, for the most part. And, you know, he was bleeding heavily, and it was a pretty great segment, you know. And I guess what happened was around that time there were a few people, at least this is the backstory I heard, there were a few people that were actually trying to get into WCW. And I think Paul Heyman had like a contact in there, which was Todd Gordon. And, you know, Alfonso was one of them and stuff like that. And I guess to keep his job and show his, you know, dedication to the company and stuff like that, Alfonso had to do that match and get his ass kicked and blade and all that other stuff. And I guess that's what just kind of happened. And I don't know, I understand on one hand because, you know, you don't want your talent to get raided and stuff like that, but like once again, I think it's just kind of that you got to prove yourself. You know, you can't, you know, this is the ECW brand, you can't want better for yourself, especially if you're not. I think this was 1998 or something like that happened, so I'm sure people were still getting paid at the very least in ECW, but obviously it's famous for bouncing checks and all that stuff, so hopefully, you know, I mean, it wasn't just a case of hey, you're still not getting paid, but you're going to work for us and all that other stuff, which could have been happening with Paul Heyman and stuff, so hopefully that's not the case. But I guess a few people had to prove their worth and their loyalty to the company after trying to defect. But I don't know, some people, for whatever reason, like when they left ECW, they were like, oh, you know, they got the heroes end and all this stuff, and it was, you know, go on to, you know, greener pastures. And other guys, I felt like they just kind of got the shaft, and they were like looked down upon by the roster and the fans and all this stuff. And I don't really understand why always. Like Mike Awesome was one of those guys, and it's a weird situation with him too. Like a lot of ECW stuff was just kind of craziness. For example, so Mike Awesome, he was obviously the champion of ECW in 2000, and he got the contract to go to WCW in 2000. And I guess he was going to be leaving with the belt, so I can kind of get why people were really pissed off at him. And but you know, he went, he dropped the belt for him and all this other stuff. And oddly enough, Taz was in the WWE at this time, and the WWF let Taz go and win that title in like a surprise match. But like, I had to wonder, for Paul Heyman's sake, like, why would you have a guy that's not in your company win it back? Like, yeah, it was a pretty cool surprise, and you know, it's a memorable segment for ECW fans and everything like that. But then that's when I think it was like later in the week on SmackDown, Taz came out and he was wearing the belt and everything like that. And you know, that's when Triple H just took him out on SmackDown while he was wearing the ECW title. So I mean, that was just kind of one of the dumbest decisions Paul Heyman could have made, when you really think about it. But I think Taz even just dropped it like the next week or something like that, or as soon as he possibly could, or something like that. Wow, that's pretty disappointing. Well, we lost to the Tasmaniac. I guess there's no shame in that, but I don't know. I feel like there's been a few matches in this where it's like I feel like I've done everything I could, and I just ended up not being able to win, you know. I put my all in it, but my all is not good enough sometimes, I guess. Just seems like there's so much damage I do to them, but they still manage to kick out a finish and stuff. You guys seen that, you know. Obviously, I hit him with the freaking back special, and then I even used the frog splash, body splash, and stuff like that, and he still kicked out, which is crazy. I don't know what else I could have done, but oh well, that keeps it interesting. But I don't know, what do you guys think of the Mike Awesome situation? Because he even left ECW because he wasn't getting paid. So champion or not, I mean, obviously Paul Heyman and ECW were not holding up their end of the bargain, so I mean, I don't blame Mike Awesome for having to leave whatsoever, but I think the issue is, like I said, he was the champion while he was leaving to WCW. But what do you guys think? I think it's kind of a bit of bollocks to hold it against him. I mean, he had a family to feed, and you know, he was giving it his all every night and all that stuff, so I don't know. But another, speaking of the Maniac, there's even another story I heard. Apparently he was talking about how him and Tommy Dreamer were at like a hotel or something in the lobby just sitting, and I guess Green Day of all people showed up to the same hotel, and I guess they were just being assholes, giving the hotel lobby girl, you know, a bunch of trouble, swearing at her, being assholes and stuff like that. So Taz and Tommy Dreamer had to put them back in their place and stuff like that. I don't know. I guess, you know, guys will be guys and stuff like that, but yeah, Green Day kind of seemed like kind of like assholes, at least from some of the stories that I've heard about them and stuff. Got some good music, and that's for sure. It's just, oh my god, it's fucking little Guido again. This is like the 7th time I fought this dude. I literally fought him 3 times last week. What more do I have to prove against him? Good lord. Oh well, it'll be a pretty entertaining match for you folks, at the very least. And I do need to get my win back, right? You know, I gotta regain my confidence after such a loss like that, but because it is Nunzio, it is going to be a first blood match. My uncle loves this song too. It's funny. He always walked out, like, I don't even think he was an ECW fan, but we used to have a jukebox, and we still do have it, it's just not set up, and me and my family, we moved away from our hometown, which is New York, and that's where all our family was and stuff, obviously. And, you know, so, but now we don't really have people we hang out with anymore, but, you know, it used to be big hot parties at my house all the time, essentially, and we had a jukebox, and my uncle always used to play, you know, Walk by Pantera all the time, and he used to always, like, sing it with a deep voice, or and stuff like that. He always, you know, like, puffed his chest out, and, you know, he's a freaking, you know, he's, like, got a weird physique. He's got extremely skinny arms, but, like, really big, wide body and stuff like that, so it's just always funny to see him do that and puff his chest out and, you know, feel pumped up and all that stuff about it. But, I don't know, I prefer Cowboys from Hell by Pantera, personally. You know, Guitar Hero got me into that one, which I would also love to do a playthrough on my playthrough channel. But, you know, Guitar Hero, I mean, everything's all... I don't mind, like, not being monetized. Obviously, I don't, you know, really make any money off of my videos at all, but, you know, I wouldn't want them to be taken down or banned in certain countries, like Russia or something like that, so... But we got a nice quick win to kind of rebound from our previous disaster, as you can see, but... this mod especially, or this ROM hack, has actually introduced me to a lot of pretty great music tracks and stuff in this game, or from the ECW roster, so I don't know, what do you guys think? Who do you think had the best ECW songs, not thong? We all know that's Francine, but anyway. I'd have to say probably, geez, my favorite might be Raven's theme. Gotta keep them separated. I don't know, I've kind of really grown to like that song quite a bit. Especially when Stevie Richards comes out with his Flock of Seagull shirt and stuff like that. That's pretty awesome. Although, I don't know, I do really like the FBI song, Staying Alive. I like the original version a lot. It's just a really good song. I think it's the music video is just funny, seeing these guys walking down and, like, you know, dilapidated buildings and stuff like that, looking tough and all this stuff. And then they're, like, speaking very high. Great song, though. Amazing song. I just don't really like the new version they had in this in the ECW, which I think it was not made for ECW, but I think it was like just like a remix or something like that from another band, but I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. But yeah, what is your you know, what do you think is the, you even put down the top 3 if you can, the top 3 ECW theme songs would be pretty great. I also seen a crazy ECW clip of Francine. It was Rick Rude, and he picked her up, and I think he like grabbed her, he like put his like he flipped her upside down and pretty much had like his face and like her we'll say lady parts and stuff like that. Yeah, they didn't really care back then. They did not care, but that's what the ECW audience did want, you know. Sex, blood, and violence. Also, who do you think, I said, you know, the bet, I said people to make their Mount Rushmores of ECW. This week, though, the question also is going to be, who is the greatest ECW superstar of all time? And I kind of already did a little bit of a poll on this, you know, a little while ago. But, you know, the issue with YouTube polls is you can only have so many options. And obviously, with ECW, you know, there's a lot of amazing talent that came in and out of that place. So, limiting it to essentially like 3 or 4. Or, you know, just having 3 and then like a, you know, you choose kind of thing. It really, you know, like I said, it just kind of limits it. So I'm asking you folks in the comments below, list it off. RVD on my poll was the one who got the highest with 57% out of 80 votes. Sabu was second, 24% out of 80 votes. Taz with 9% of 80 votes. Interesting, because Taz was definitely someone who was like, especially in the early days of ECW, he was kind of like the guy, like he seemed like the Stone Cold, you know. He went out there and just kind of whooped ass, cleared the ring, and was the one that everybody always wanted to come out, you know, chanting Taz is gonna kill you, all that sort of stuff. Whereas Sabu and RVD, I feel like they were kind of like the heels, the top heels for you know, quite a while. And then there's also a 10% of others, and I always ask people to freaking comment who they say it is and stuff like that. Half the time I don't, but we actually got some pretty good responses here. Obviously, you know, longtime viewer RD Pruett 88, also known as you know, Rich Nero Nightwing 88. Little shout out for you down below. But he shouted out Mikey Whipwreck. Interesting choice. I think he wasn't he ECW World Champion at one point? Because I remember in the showcase mode for Stone Cold in 2K16, they had the one-on-one match between him, and I know they had like a 3-way dance, I believe, with those two and Raven for the title. But Stone Cold apparently could have been the ECW World Champion, but I guess he said he preferred being, you know, as the heel. He wanted to be the guy who chased the title. We got some New Jack in there by the JTA 20. And he said that the music played during his matches, which interesting. And he was a wild card. He never knew what he was going to do or say, which is true. That seems like the true spirit of ECW if I ever seen one. Sandman, obviously another recognizable name there. And then I actually had 2 for Raven. But yeah, like I said, I mean, those are all pretty great picks, so it's just, there was too much good talent at that time. I think the 90s, a lot of them, you just look at everybody and I don't know, I feel like it was really a great thing that we had 3 promotions, because even though there's a lot of people that you know, fans say were underrated or underutilized, I mean, there was just so much, you know, top-tier talent in the 90s. You know, very unique wrestlers and their styles. So, I mean, it's just, you know, like you look at ECW, they had lots of top-tier talent there, like I mentioned. You know, facing Lance Storm, he was a pretty top-tier talent. Had absolutely 0 mic skills, if we're being honest, but, you know, he was definitely a special talent with his super kick. And then obviously a lot of those also came to WCW and WWF, especially in like the later years, like 99 and 2000 and all that good stuff. But even then, like in the later days, you know, there's a lot of people that say ECW still had lots of top tier talents. Apparently, Supernova said that he was kind of at that tail end in which he could have, you know, potentially been like a guy who was getting like a showcase and put it at the top of the card at the dying days of ECW. So that's kind of interesting. Kid Cash, I feel like, was also someone that was pretty cool back in the day. I remember I loved him when he first came to WWE and stuff. That was pretty awesome. Just especially because, I don't know, I just really liked the name Kid Cash. He had a pretty cool look and stuff like that. He was the Cruiserweight champion for a short while, and I remember he took out Juventud Guerrera from the WWE, ended his career, I think. And in reality, it was just Juventud Guerrera was like a huge asshole. Jeez Louise, this is what I'm talking about, man. I can't freaking get these guys to stay down. I'm excited. Fans would probably be chanting ECW right now if this was a real match. Then again, probably not, because I mean, this is a lumberjack match. Keeping things inside the ring so that way, you know, if I win this one, then I'm really, you know, regaining my my confidence here after that embarrassing loss to the Tasmaniac. So obviously that's why there's no hardcore weapons or anything like that. Plus, I feel like just a lumberjack match kind of fits the Lance Storm style, less hardcore, more wrestling oriented. So if I can beat him at his own game, then you know what, I mean, maybe there's hope for me after all in this battle. Surprised, I don't know, maybe I'll actually have a title match at the pay-per-view. But I don't know, I'm surprised I haven't had one with the ECW World title. But I think, obviously I did have the For the Win Championship match. I think because I've like read it online back when I was a kid, that's the like my strategy here, by the way. But I always read online as a kid that like every time you had a belt, you had to defend them all at the pay-per-views and stuff like that. In WrestleMania 2000, Road to WrestleMania, but obviously I've learned that that's not really the case. It seems like it's just kind of random at times, or you know, you'll defend you know, belts throughout the period of the month rather than just all on one show. But sometimes that does feel like it's the case. I can't believe I didn't get a freaking tag team championship opportunity. I think you're supposed to get them at like Survivor Series, which would have been November to Remember. But I don't know. I'm assuming that, you know, my tag win percentage was too low because we kept losing to freaking Sandman and Shane Douglas. I gotta say, they got our numbers, unfortunately. It's kind of partly the reason why I ended up doing like a normal tag match this time instead of, you know, a tornado one, because, you know, your AI partner in this game, I mean, they're like on the lowest AI setting, so unfortunately, which is kind of a load of bullocks. Damn, I just cannot get the upper hand on this guy. And I think he might be in that state in which, you know, he gets, you know, extra momentum and stuff like that. Let's see. Oh, good lord. I feel like there's also certain moves that certain wrestlers reverse often, too. Okay, this is not good. Okay. Yeah, we effed up, so now we can't even get any sort of momentum either. Yeah, I feel like he definitely has, like, he's in that state in which he gets, like, twice the momentum and stuff. Which just makes things that much more difficult. But I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll be lucky enough to get into that state. It's pretty much usually at the point in which, like, I guess you're ready to be finished off, but when it comes to higher difficulty AI, how it works also is you gotta do like quite a few big moves in a row usually and be able to successfully land them to be able to finish off your opponent. So I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to even do it. Damn it, he's waiting and listening. Alright, we just gotta taunt our way momentum up while he's out there goofing around. I probably should have just knocked him off there. That would have been a sound strategy. Come on, land it. Alright, we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. Ooh, and we got the strong grapple off, folks. Yeah, things are coming up. Raw Van Dam. Coming up, Mr. Monday Night. If I can hit this splash, it's pretty much over. Alright, we got him, folks. That's pretty much the end of this video. Just remember to comment your favorite ECW theme, as well as who you think the greatest ECW wrestler of all time is, and why. That's all today, folks. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe to me, Bino Mac. Next Saturday will be the Extreme Battle Royal. Tomorrow I rank my top 10 favorite WCW NWO Revenge attires. Every Sunday I do comparison videos, evolution of the series, personal rankings, and more one-off videos. If you want to see a non-Aki wrestling game playthrough this Wednesday, I continue my journey through the territories with Hulk Hogan and Legends of Wrestling for the GameCube. And if you want non-wrestling playthroughs, subscribe to my Let's Play channel Bino Max to see me play titles like Grand Theft Auto, Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks, and Teen Titans, which has a link in the description below along with all other links and codes featured in this video, including previous episodes. Above all else though, please remember to have a nice day.